everybody, it's Lauren Alvin with Add a Pup Dog and Puppy Training. I wanted to talk about savings accounts, a little follow-up to the last video. So every time you reinforce your dog, you're putting a paycheck in that account. You can picture like piggy banks, doggy banks. Every time you reinforce them, you are putting a little deposit in that piggy bank. Whatever behavior occurred, sitting, 10 cents. Looking at mom, 15 cents. Coming when called, $500. All of these little piggy banks have your deposits in them every time you reinforce your dog, or your dog gets reinforced by the environment. So jump up on grandma, she starts squeaking, deposit in that account. See a skunk, run after it, deposit in that account. Whatever behavior they have is going to have a little piggy bank at the end of it. So if you want them to choose to do behaviors that you want your dog to do, like leave sidewalk pizza alone, or run back to you and away from a skunk when you make a strange noise, or sit when they're excited, totally human things, then we have to make it worth their while, and we have to make that savings account bigger than whatever the alternative was or is. So if the dog has been jumping up on people for 3 years and it's worked every time because it feels good and it makes sense, and what else am I going to do? They've got a huge savings account there. It's what dogs do. It's sort of, they came with that piggy bank. So if we want to set up a separate account, we have to cut off all deposits to the other one and then funnel all the payments into the new one. Then, as that old one is, running out, then the new one starts building up until eventually the new one's going to be 1 penny more than the old one, and it will start becoming their default. There's more about that in the Teach, Prevent, Pay video if you want to learn. Have my fancy little neural pathway drawings, that's where that's from. But the savings account, every time you pay them or they get paid, there's a deposit. The more deposits you put into account, the bigger it gets. The bigger deposits you put in there, the more frequently, the bigger it gets. And when you have a big enough savings account, if they have a long enough reinforcement history, then you can start living off the interest. And that means you put them on an intermittent reinforcement schedule, which is to say they only get paid sometimes. So I don't pay Nina every single time she sits. She sits a lot. You don't pay your dog every single time they sit, because sometimes they sit and you're not even home. So technically they're on an intermittent reinforcement schedule. But when they get really good at stuff, you can ask them to do it when you know they're going to be able to do it, and then just say thanks. Good job. I appreciate that. Do something else, do something following that, or you did what I needed you to do and now we're going to do something else. That's a withdrawal out of their account. But if it's big enough, they can handle that. If they've got a nice big savings account or a nice small savings account, and you just start taking it for granted and taking out withdrawals and ask them to perform a behavior but don't put anything back in, then that savings account's going to shrink. And if you only take withdrawals and never put deposits into an account, it's going to disappear, which means that the dog's going to go, that behavior doesn't work. I do that and it doesn't pay me. There's nothing reinforcing about this. There's no reason for me to do that. So you sit. I'm not going to keep doing it. That means that you have not been paying your dog. You've just been taking advantage of what's going on and their goodwill and the fact that they're brilliant. But that brilliancy comes back when they say, I'm not gonna do it anymore. So if you want your dog to be at a particular level of proficiency with a behavior, then you need to make sure that that savings account is big enough always. So if you're okay with your dog only sitting every once in a while when you give them a hand signal or 3 hints in a row or something, that's totally fine. That's your life and your dog. It's not a big deal. But if you want your dog to be, blue ribbon winner obedience trial, you say the word, you get half of the word sit out and their butt plants on the ground, then they need to be really, really proficient in it, and they need to have an enormous savings account. Part of that is time, part of that is practice, part of that is knowing your dog and what's reinforcing for them, and the other part is making sure that that savings account grows big enough so that there is no other option. It's not left or right, it's all to the right. You do it. It's their default. So you get to decide what that looks like for you and your dog. What you don't get to decide is what works for your dog. So I like Good and Plenty's. They're pretty good. If someone offered me like I don't know, what's something coconut or Good and Plenty. I'd take the Good and Plenties for sure. But if I was working for someone else and they said, you know what, I saw you eating Good and Plenties on your break the other day, I'm not gonna give you a paycheck anymore, I'm just gonna pay you with Good and Plenties, because you like it, right? It's not gonna work out. No, not gonna work. Also, if I've been working really well at a job and then my boss says, you know what, you are so good at your job and I know you love it and I know you respect me, I don't have to pay you anymore. You're just gonna keep coming to work and doing exactly what you've been doing, just as good as you've been doing, because you love me and want to please me. That's not gonna last either. Dogs are the same. They do what works for them. Humans do what works for humans and dogs do what works for dogs. It's not because they're selfish, it's because they're smart. So we have to make sure that the things that we want our dogs to be doing that work for us, work for them as well. And that means maintaining savings accounts at a, what's the word for it, at a level that we want them to be able to do. I hope that makes sense. It's not easy to make in 2 videos in a row. We've got Puppy 101 will start again at the end of August. Funkstown and North Paws, their event pages are on the Facebook page. Zany to Zen will be starting August 14th along with Tweenie Boppers. We've got the Tricks class coming up in October, Loose Leash Walking in September. The whole fall schedule is on the website, so check it out there. Let me know if you have any questions or requests. You're awesome. Take care. Bye-bye.